Welcome to Discover Marshalltown. I'm Kyle Martin hosting today, and we are out and about again. We can't stay in a studio. We like to do these these remote broadcasts, and I like it too. Jenny Etter is joining us from the Central Business District. What's your official title? You're director?
Executive director.
Executive director.
Yeah,
so I didn't want to bust you in rank. So we'll get that correct.
It sounds far more impressive than it is.
Executive director. Jenny Etter joining us, and explain, before we get into your personal and your biographical background, which I know she's excited about sharing.
Delirious.
Before we get to that, Jenny, talk about what your position entails. What exactly? We're sitting in your office, but you are crazy busy.
Yes. I get to manage the Central Business District program. We're a Main Street program, and that means we have a 4-point approach to program development. And so we have 4 committees: design, promotions, economic restructuring, and there's an organization. And so each of those committees have a whole lot of tasks that they do every year. And so because it's just myself and a part-time administrative support person, we rely on hundreds of volunteers.
Right.
Since 2002, we've had 55,000 hours of volunteer time.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah. Let's talk about downtown. Let's talk about our historical Central Business District. I mean, there is an awful lot of rich history down here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not only your job to get things happening, whether it be economically or whether it be promotional wise, but also to make sure that our downtown maintains a certain look. There are certain guidelines. If we put up a new facade, we have to kind of make it look somewhat historically accurate.
Right.
I would think. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, with the advent of urban sprawl and malls, throughout our United States, downtowns really became neglected. And it became very obvious that we needed to restore the core of our communities. And so Main Street, the national program was started to help communities start bringing their downtowns back to life.
Right.
So we became a Main Street program in 2002, and this was due to the hard work of all the retailers and restaurant owners downtown that really wanted to join efforts together to start doing something about regenerating the downtown. So since then, we've had $27 million in building renovations downtown.
Unbelievable.
So a lot of work goes into that.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about tuck pointing and stuff.
Nope.
That's a given. Tuck pointing and sprucing up a building and stuff like that. But there have been a lot of fixer-uppers that have really taken on new life.
Well, I think the tall corn is probably the biggest star in the batch. It became pretty run down. Right. And so through a huge community effort and about 19 different funders, the whole building was gutted and restored. Yeah. That took about 5 years to complete. So we're fortunate that we have people very, very committed in this community to restoring the downtown and supporting what we do.
I think of East Main as a whole new gateway to our community because, you've got the Orpheum that, in recent years it has been totally renovated and it's become a multi-purpose complex. You've got the Orpheum, the Tall Corn, and the Iowa Wholesale Building.
Right. All
within, 7-8 years?
Yes.
And
now the Kibbe building.
The Kibbe building, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of sprucing up down there. Now let me ask you this, you talk about private funding and private donations and stuff like that, but there's grant writing. Lots. Is that something that you participate in?
I write about 10 to 20 grants a year.
Wow.
And a lot of times it's for bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for funders to help us renovate these old buildings. It's like a used car. You get into it, and there's just more than you would ever imagine.
Oh, sure. Well, because you're dealing with turn of the century, maybe pre-turn of the century. Maybe asbestos, maybe lack of a sprinkler system is another one.
Oh, and upgrading electrical and plumbing and
exactly.
on and on. Well, and people ask me, well, why don't you write grants? Why aren't there grants for other parts of the community? Well, first of all, these buildings are turn of the century, and second of all, there are a lot of historic requirements that they have to abide by when they're renovating. Nobody else has to go with those standards, and so there's a level of accountability that you don't have throughout the community that's specific to the downtown in our historic district.
Yeah, and we are very historical. There are many, many buildings that are listed, down here as being of historical significance, no doubt about that. As far as grant writing, do you have to go to workshops to learn how to do that? Did you learn it on the fly?
Well, I'm a certified grant writer.
Okay.
And so I came into the job having that experience.
Sure.
And I actually like writing grants. A lot of people don't, but I like it because you have this great product when you're done. And if you're funded, it's really exciting to see what you can do with those funds.
Yeah, boy. Anything that is on the horizon, maybe? The Kibbe building is one that you brought, that you mentioned. That one is being renovated as well. Is it at the owner's expense, some of it?
Always.
Always.
Always. We can get grant money, but all of the grants are matching funds to some degree. And so sometimes they're a dollar for a dollar match, sometimes they're 50%. 25%, whatever, but they have to have significant skin in the game.
Yeah, and the Kibbe building was damaged due to the fire, right? It was the adjacent building burned down. That was the old KFJB building.
Right.
KFJB,
that's right.
Yeah, KFJB was on the third floor of that building. Dating back to I think 1948, 49 to 1979. It was in that building, and there wasn't a whole lot in that building, but unfortunately it burned down and caused a lot of damage to the adjacent to the Kibbe building.
The wall that was exposed was an interior wall. It was never meant to be an exterior wall, so a lot of work had to be done to that exterior to make it stable and stabilize the foundation of that building. So that was the first hurdle to get over.
My goodness, yeah.
And then got the whole building.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe you wouldn't be letting the cat out of the bag. What's going in there?
Well, the upper floor are 4 apartments.
Okay.
And you need to go see them. They're fabulous. We had the Treasures Tour.
I was going to talk about the Treasures Tour.
Yeah, we developed that a couple years ago to really showcase the upper story renovations that have been done in the downtown, and people are amazed when they see how beautiful they are and how many residents are downtown. People have no idea that there's this quality of apartments and lofts in our own downtown.
Yeah, and I'll probably circle back to living downtown in a minute, but talking about downtowns in general, they really were the central business district.
Yes.
Like you talked about
the
before,
hub of the community.
Before urban sprawl, and nobody even heard of a mall.
Right.
There was so many businesses that were up and down Main Street around the courthouse square. Obviously, most of them are not there anymore. Restaurants and shoe stores and clothing stores.
Right.
Some of those businesses aren't necessarily things that we would need today. But it's just amazing how people would come from the farm and drive from miles around or take a train to get here to go visit a department store on Main Street, and we don't necessarily see that much anymore.
Well, when I was a kid, I'll date myself, but you came downtown to get your school clothes, to get everything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that many years ago. So
Sure.
I think a lot of people in this town remember when Marshalltown, the downtown, was incredibly vibrant.
Right.
And that's where everything happened. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to bring that back.
Well, and that's important, obviously, to bring it back, and it's obviously a slow process.
Right.
It's been it was in decline for quite some time. I'm guessing late 1960s, maybe 70s,
Right.
you know, into just recent
Right.
days, and we're starting to see a lot of Hispanic businesses, and that is awesome.
Right.
You know, that they're going in some of these vacant buildings, you know, whether it be furniture or grocery stores. I mean, they are occupying a lot of those business restaurants, obviously. Yeah, there's some good ones.
Well, and people forget Marshalltown has always been a melting pot.
Yeah, very diverse.
We've always had a diverse population, and you know, the immigrants who moved to the United States, you know, they love the Midwest, and Marshalltown is no exception to that. We've had all kinds of people from Europe that moved in early on.
Yeah.
The West End had Sicilians and Italians.
Yeah.
You know, the East End rather, and the West End was very European. So, and we've always had African American families. We've always had, you know, when Robert D. Ray was governor, churches supported having Laotians and Vietnamese come to the United States, and we had many Vietnamese and Laotians family comes to town. So having different cultures in this town is not anything new.
It's not new. And I help out with a program on KFJB called the Marshalltown Icon Show. It's about the history of our community. And I tell you, Jenny, I have probably heard 3 or 4 businesses that started here alone where they just decided to get off the train here. There
Right.
was a stopover, and
Right.
and some of them were immigrants, and they said, you know, this would be a really nice place to start whatever. You know, whether it be Lennox or Vic Helberg at Helberg Jewelers, you know, his great-great-grandfather got off the train here, said, you know, I think I want to settle here. It's amazing how I keep hearing that over and over again with immigrants just stopping over here and deciding, this is the place I think I'd like to start.
Yeah. It's
So-
a great place.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and, if we can, take a commercial break, and we will be right back with Jenny Etter from our Central Business District. Welcome back to Discover Marshalltown, Executive Director of the Central Business District, right here, Jenny Etter. We were talking a little bit before we went to commercial break about some of the housing down here, and some of it is definitely a hidden gem. We didn't know that there were some of these apartments above some of these businesses. And you've toured some of them. You've seen most of them, if not all of them.
Yes.
Let's talk about
They're
some
amazing.
of those. Yeah, some real tall ceilings, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Crown molding.
Yeah.
Fireplaces, wooden floors.
Exposed bricks.
Yeah.
Original floors. You know, the Iowa Wholesale building
Yeah.
kept the original floors and have the original brick and the tall ceilings. They're awesome.
My
Awesome.
goodness.
They're beautiful.
And we were talking a little bit during break that people in major metropolitan areas will pay big bucks to live in these
Big bucks.
loft apartments. They're kind of an in thing right now. In fact, There is, I live in Grinnell, and they are taking an old buggy building down there that used to, the Spalding Buggy Factory. I think it was bought by Hubble Realty in Des Moines. They're doing that.
Yeah.
They're making these incredible apartments out of this building that was built in like 1859 or something like that.
Well, these buildings are structurally sound. They're built like tanks.
Yeah.
And they're built to last. And,
Right.
and the workmanship on them is phenomenal, from the woodwork to the flooring to the,
Yeah.
the windows. So that's really fun when we go to approach a renovation project, is looking at the bones of the place and seeing how well they're built.
Yeah. As far as housing in downtown, I won't say that it was a concern or has been a concern, but
It is a concern.
it is a concern.
Sure.
Okay. I didn't want to put words in
Sure,
your
we don't
mouth.
have enough housing.
Yeah. But there are some, I mean, they're starting to develop some of these properties a lot more, these historic buildings down here.
Well, you know what they found out is that a lot of building owners just use their upper stores for storage.
Sure.
Then they realize they're missing out on a whole lot of revenue.
Right.
And that it's good for the community, it's good for the downtown, it's good for our tax base. And so, the city, we allocate funding every year to renovate facades and building code upgrade. Well, since 2006, we've had 20 different projects that were funded at about $200,000. Okay, the private investment that was made on those projects is way over $11 million.
Wow.
Okay, so nowhere can you get that kind of turnaround on your investment.
Absolutely.
Right? So, in fact, the Kibbe building, that was sold for about $15,000 because of the shape that was in. And Barb Hagstrand and her partner, Jeff Mitchell, are putting over $2.5 million in it.
Holy buckets.
Okay, so with that and the park.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of investment return that you get when you renovate these buildings.
Yeah. Without going into, I mean, obviously we don't have visuals of some of these buildings, or maybe in my mind's eye of some of these buildings. But let's talk about. You did a little bit about some of the features in them. I'm guessing with the stairwells, the wooden stairwells,
Oak staircases.
Yeah. What about the heating? I would think turn of the century heating, the coal heating, and the steam heating. Those are so passé and so outdated. Those probably all had to be updated.
Well, if you go into Sue Clark's building where the chalet is,
Right.
It has the original everything, including the radiators.
Those big,
Yeah, the big accordion-looking
Right,
things.
sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awesome.
And they still work?
I would imagine.
You would imagine.
If their boilers are.
Yeah, boilers. Yeah, absolutely.
Remember?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you, which you are like.
Yeah.
I don't know that you wanted to talk about
Okay.
yourself, but you were raised here.
Yes.
Yeah, but you went away and you came back.
Yeah, my parents were raised here, and my grandparents were raised here.
We're happy that you are back.
Back.
When did you come back?
About 4 years, going on 5 years ago.
Okay, where did you go?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. I've been
Yeah.
everywhere. It's like the song.
Well, I graduated from high school here in '74 and went to MCC, then went to Buena Vista.
Yeah.
But went out east to go to graduate school.
Okay.
Goddard College in Plainfield, Vermont.
Okay.
Tree hugger school.
Yeah, a lot of good maple syrup there.
Oh, yeah. And my background's actually in psychology,
Okay.
which has really prepared me for, almost anything in life, I got to tell you.
I think we talked about this once on the radio. How did, in a roundabout way, how did you get into this position and the grant writing expertise that you have?
Well, I'm one of 5 kids, and at the time I was in San Antonio running a mental health clinic
Okay.
in Bernie and in Fredericksburg, and we needed to put my parents in assisted living.
Okay.
And I was one of the 5 kids that at the time weren't married, and my brother who lives in town said, "You need to come home. It's time to help." And so it made perfect sense, and so here I am.
Yeah. Your schedule, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. You go to a lot of meetings.
Yes.
You want to talk about some of those meetings? Because I hear you talking before the city council and other entities here in town.
Well, we have 4 committees.
Yeah.
And so they all have their own projects. You know, the design committee does the flower baskets, the berms, the banners, the pedestrian walkway.
Right.
And so each one of those projects takes tons of meetings.
Yeah.
And so I usually go to most of those.
Holy smokes.
And then
Yeah.
I'm involved with Marshalltown Public Art Committee.
Okay.
Vision Marshalltown.
Yeah.
You know, and each one of those then also has projects attached to it. So
Sure.
it's exciting.
Yeah, well,
it's fun.
You know, our town is really gaining some momentum as far as development is concerned. I just think about when I first came here, 13th Street, how far that's come.
Right.
You know, and obviously a lot of the businesses downtown. One of the biggies, you talked about the hanging baskets. That's certainly something that beautifies our community. But the one the thing that always sticks out in my mind is the Holiday Stroll,
Right.
and Oktoberfest. Those two in particular. But talk a little bit about the Holiday Stroll because we're getting close.
Oh, yeah, it's next week.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I spent all morning on activities for that.
Yeah.
But this is really special because this is our 25th anniversary. So we're calling it our Silver Bell anniversary.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big. And the courthouse is also 130 years old on the Holiday Stroll Day.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we
November 19th.
Craig and I got to tour the courthouse just recently with Lisa Gassman. She gave us the
Pretty awesome,
Oh
right?
my goodness.
And you guys did the video for that?
Yeah. Well, he did the video. I just walked around. I mean, you know, I didn't have to carry anything heavy, but there were a lot of stairs and a lot of ladders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a hidden gem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
So there's an ugly sweater get together for.
there is. I talked Lynn Olberding, who is a really good sport from the chamber,
Yeah.
she's going to host that and judge the ugly sweater contest
Yeah.
this year. So we're hoping to have a lot of participants.
Yeah, that's a fun thing. We've done that at my household I think maybe we've done it 5 or 6 years, and it's always funny what people come up. A lot of homemade sweaters, but there's so many ugly sweaters out there. I don't know why you'd want to make a
They're really atrocious. Some of them are just frightening.
Yeah. In your position as executive director of the Central Business District, do you have to ever contact maybe the Historical Society or talk to folks down in Des Moines and deal with the historical aspects of some of the structures? I mean, are there any... We talked about historical guidelines, but do you ever reach out to them and go, hey, what do I need to know about this building in particular?
Well, we're lucky being a Main Street program. We have lots and lots of access to resources, and one of them is Tim Reinders with the Main Street program in Des Moines.
Okay.
And he comes up and does all kinds of work for us and helps us find references and historic stuff that we need. You know, we have a great historical society here.
We do.
And so they're always wonderful at finding archival information and digging up stuff about some of these old buildings. So that's really fun.
Yeah. Do you ever have to deal, and this is more of a city problem, I'm sure, but do you ever have to deal with stuff below ground? I mean, like sewer and stuff like that. You just deal with this stuff.
Not personally,
No,
but...
I didn't mean personally, but I mean, obviously the infrastructure of a lot of that stuff dates back to
Sure.
when they were laying down the streets. Do you ever have to deal, do you ever get questions about stuff below ground?
Oh, sure. And, a lot of the buildings downtown have huge basements, and a lot of them are attached.
No.
And so
Really?
a lot of them, you can walk from one building to another.
Underground?
Underground. And
Did they ever say what the purpose for that was?
I think that it was a safety thing in case of a fire.
Okay.
All these buildings were.
Yeah, you could just get out that way.
Yeah, there's a multitude of ways you could get out.
Now, we've talked about the treasure tour, which is mostly lofts. Maybe we should do one below ground sometime.
You go on without me. You can do that one on your own.
Hey, they do it in the Paris tunnels in Paris.
Do.
That is like a huge tourist attraction.
Oh, no, man.
No, not down there.
No, that would freak me right out.
Too scary.
One of the most interesting things that I've found so far downtown has been above Doodah's Diner.
I understand
it's the old Independent Order of Oddfellows Lodge up there.
I hear it's cool.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's like a 30-foot ceiling with a stage and a ballroom.
Yeah.
You turn around and there's this balcony that has the original theater seats in it.
I've heard some awesome things about that. Yeah, I knew somebody that went up there one time. Did you tour that? Was that part of your treasure tour one year?
This year.
This year?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to go on that one of the. And you don't do that every year?
We do it every other year.
Okay.
We don't want to wear out our building owners.
Well, you're not going to run out of treasures.
Well, this year we had over 200 people that went on the tour.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a lot to ask a homeowner to have all these people schlepping through their house, you know.
Just coming through this neat ballroom.
But they're good sports, and Dan Kester's place is unbelievable. He and his wife have a beautiful home.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the Tremont block.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
J.P. Howard and Jennifer Howard have done an awesome job.
Tremendous amount of work on that building.
People do not understand. I mentioned that I stayed at the Tremont overnight during a snowstorm, and they're like, "You stayed at the restaurant?" I said, "No, I stayed upstairs. You know, there used to be a hotel, and there still are plenty of rooms up there."
Absolutely.
Phenomenal
they're
rooms.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put in a plug for JP, but if you get an opportunity, it's almost like stepping back in time.
You know, I think one of the biggest criticisms of Marshalltown from people who don't live here is that we don't toot our horn enough. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't. You know, being a Midwesterner, we're pretty humble and we don't brag about our successes.
Right.
However, we take it to an extreme that we don't talk about it at all. We just go about our business and work hard but there's so many things about Marshalltown that people don't realize. How many great things are happening, how many beautiful buildings and places we have in this town that are just great.
Yeah.
You know, we have, I have meetings here. We host the directors from other Main Street programs, and they come to Marshalltown. They love it. They think it's beautiful, and they're really pleased with all the work that's been done over the years. So, you know, it's like we don't see the forest for the trees.
Sure.
You know, I think if you live here, we know the problems we have, but we really certainly need to celebrate the successes and the great things about this town that are apparent. You know, and since I hadn't lived here for a while, coming back, it's like, oh, geez, look at the library that we have.
Right.
You know, the Roundhouse, and now all of the great renovations to that. There are just so many things that are going on that are great for this town.
Yeah. Where does the Main Street district, what encompasses that? I think the square, but I mean there are some streets that are side streets.
Sure. It basically goes from 3rd Street to 5th Avenue, from Church Street to State. And it jogs in and out, but that's pretty much the area.
Okay. All right.
That's our downtown.
Wow. And you know what's interesting about it is that, you know, because I obviously come into work on the West End, because that's where the radio station is, and I love to look down Main Street in the morning.
Isn't that pretty?
You know, I can see the Orpheum sign, but what's interesting is it's a lot bigger than you think.
Right.
Just try walking it.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it really is. It's much bigger, and obviously you're going to get to experience that during the stroll, but it's much, much bigger than a lot of, you know, central business districts.
Well, we have over 200 buildings in the downtown district.
200, really?
Yeah. Did
not know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's going to wrap up our show today, we think. Jenny Etter, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun.
All right, this has been Discover Marshalltown. We'll see you next time.